and presenters. So join me as letter by letter, one by one, we explore everything from flowers and trees to fruit and veg on the A to Z of TV gardening. Everything we're looking at today begins with the letter
C. Here's what's coming up. Will it be 24-karat gold? Joe Swift tries to grow the best bunch in Britain.
Well, I hope you've got the right seed. Sweet Candle. Oh my God, you've got the very best. Yeah. It's winning everywhere. Mwah!
Alice Fowler is in Kent checking out cherries. And we get clued up on the clematis with Glenys Dyer.
It's just starting to flower. It will go on and on and on, because the herbaceous ones do.
Just some of the treats we have in store.
And we start by heating things up with the fieriest of vegetables. You've guessed it, C is for chilies.
And food reporter Jay Rayner is on a quest to find the hottest of them all.
Chilies. A third of the world eats them every day. In the UK, we've turned up late to the chili party. But our tastes are changing, and right now, UK chili sales are hot. But why have we grown a love for something that actively hurts our taste buds? Have we developed heat-resistant tongues, or are we just being macho?
Love is a burning thing.
Capsaicin is the compound that makes chilies hot. It stimulates both temperature and pain sensors, confusing the brain and burning the tongue. So why do we crave it? Here's the science bit. Eating chilies releases endorphins in the body, which are a kind of natural opiate. So while you're unlikely to get addicted to chilies, it's not surprising that that fiery hit is a hard habit to break. The power of the chili isn't just in its taste. Capsaicin is the burning chemical in police pepper spray. There's a scientific scale used to measure the heat of chili peppers like this. Scoville heat units measure the number of times a chili pepper extract must be diluted in water for it to lose its heat. Now, something with a real kick like Tabasco sauce scores 2,500 on the Scoville scale. But the lovely One Show team want me to seek out the legendary ghost pepper, which is over 1 million on the Scoville heat scale. It's nice to know they care. The ghost pepper is one of the fiery chilies known as the Nagas, which are native to Bangladesh. But to find one, I only need to head to Bedfordshire, where at this chili farm you can pick your own. And business is booming.
There are lots of serious foodies out there that ask for the different varieties. They're asking for like the poblanos, the jalapenos, the Scotch bonnets, because you know, they found a great recipe that they want to cook.
But with hundreds of varieties of chili to dabble with, how do you choose the right one?
Size does matter in chili land.
Okay.
So generally, the smaller the chili, such as the Dorset Naga, the smaller, the hotter.
But now I'm going to take on the hottest Naga variety here, the ghost chili. At over 1 million on the Scoville scale, this is one of the hottest types of chili in the world.
There you go.
Okay, here goes. I think I've bitten into a dud until I get to the seeds. Oh, haha. Oh, okay.
Because remember, the tip is the mildest bit. The closer you get the seeds, the hotter it gets.
The diaphragm's going.
Do you need any milk?
Yes,
okay.
please.
I see a bit of sweat as well building up.
Don't do this at home.
Right, if that didn't scare you off, here's more from Jason Nichols and Stephen Waters, two chili farmers from Devon.
There's thousands of varieties to choose from. All sorts of different colours, heats, flavours.
It's not just about mild, medium or hot. It's really about what does this chilli do when it's dried, what does it do when it's pickled, and so on. The same family as tomatoes and potatoes. Most of the varieties originate from South America, but they've spread around the world.
It's the variety that determines the heat, really, but within that there's also environmental factors. Temperature is one of them. Chilies that are grown at sort of 90 degrees are considerably hotter than those that are grown at 70 degrees.
The heat is a stimulant. The chemical is known as capsaicin. There are supposed to be 16 or so different strands of it, and it basically stimulates the same reaction in you as heat. So if you were to rub a hot chili on the back of your hand, for instance, and then immerse it in warm water, it would feel hotter than it was. This is a Peruvian chili called ají limón, and the name says it really has a very lemony taste. It's very sort of zesty in its fresh form, quite fiery, so it has to be chopped quite finely. The unusual thing about this chili is when you dry it, it actually looks and smells and tastes like a banana.
This is a Hungarian wax chilli. These are quite mild ones and very good for chopping into salads or eating on their own or frying up.
Flash frying these padron peppers. This is a popular Spanish tapas. Fry the peppers for about 5 minutes, making sure you sort of turn them over now and again until they're blistered all over, and sprinkle them with sea salt and serve them up. As soon as they're cool enough to eat, start eating them. Just sort of pop them in like oysters, really.
One of the ways of preserving chilies is to smoke them. And these are jalapenos, which are a particularly big and thick-fleshed chili. To dry them, put them in a smoker. And after 48 hours of smoking over oak chips, we end up with something like this. The orange ones are the hotter ones.
This is an Ackee Amarillo, very fruity chili. Chili chocolate in the middle.
Is that the very hot one you've had?
Well,
Very nice, yeah. We're no longer sat at desks anymore. We're out, we're digging, we're planting, we're picking, we're cooking, all sorts of different things. Variety is the spice of life.
Now, from a vegetable that makes your tongue tingle, we move on to one that, according to popular myth, helps you to see in the dark. Also under the letter C are carrots.
It's a bit scary, this, Charlie.
Joe Swift hopes he can cut it at the RHS Carrot Growing Contest. But to make sure he doesn't fall flat on his face, he got a little help from multi-award winner Charles Maisie.
Charlie!
Good afternoon, Joe.
Good afternoon, nice to meet you.
I've seen you many times on the television, but I've never met you personally. It's delightful to see you.
Come in, Charlie,
Okay,
come
Joe.
in.
Right you are.
I'll show you the garden.
Right on.
Right, Charlie, this is my garden.
Yeah.
It's not very big, but
No,
it is
it's not,
south-facing, it's
Joe.
nice and sunny.
South-facing. Got plenty of sun coming in, Joe.
Yeah, loads of
It's
sun.
beautiful.
Nice and open. Right then, Charlie, what about me carrots? Do you think if I start off with a load of gravel down the bottom?
Oh, that's the in thing, Joe.
Lovely. So what's next then?
The next is the sharp sand now, filled to about 3 inches from the top.
How's that then, Charlie? Is that compacted?
That's good.
All right.
That's excellent, Joe.
Right.
I don't think you can better that.
Okay, so what's next then?
The next thing is taking the course out. So
Okay.
we're aiming to get 8 carrots in here, I think.
Yeah.
So if we take it about, say, 2 inches from there,
Okay.
and then as far down, Joe, we just want to go right down to the drainage pebbles.
Yeah.
And then,
Beauty.
hopefully, there we are,
What do
Joe.
you reckon, Charlie? Is it going to hold? Let's have a look.
Let's have a look. It looks pretty good to me.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be all
See,
right,
Joe,
isn't it?
and when you press it down,
Yeah.
turn like that.
Give it a twist.
And then,
Yeah, go
hopefully,
on.
Joe.
Is it coming up? Is it coming up?
Have a look, Joe.
Yeah.
And you drop it out.
Not a drop.
Just look at that.
Look at that.
You've got 24 carrots to get 3 from.
Yeah, I got 3 out
It
of
sounds
24.
easy, Joe. I grew 90, and I couldn't get a set of 5 for the national championship.
Don't tell me that now. I'm just getting excited and you're trying to
Oh,
dampen
I'm
my
sorry, Joe. I
enthusiasm.
am
again.
damping your enthusiasm off. Press it as far down as you can, Joe.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine, Joe.
Yeah. It's beautiful, isn't
Isn't
it?
it lovely?
What do I need next then for the compost mix?
Well, you need a good quality topsoil or loam.
Okay. I've got
Also
that.
some fine builder's sand now, and I think you're going to use some compost, don't you? What do you want, Joe? You want a bucket of each? There you are. Give it a good shake if you're putting it in, yeah. There you are. And you want to give it a good mix in.
Okay, I reckon that's ready to be sieved.
Just look here now.
Look at
now,
that.
you cannot have those lumps in.
No.
If you put a lump in there, Joe, the carrot root is going to go round it. And it's going to have, obviously, a bevel side. It's not going to be truly clean all the way down.
Okay, it feels nice. It feels like it's all mixed together nicely. That is a really good texture, isn't
It's
it?
a nice texture, Joe, isn't it?
Beautiful
You can't
stuff.
fault that, can you?
You cannot fault that.
We're going to have to add this seaweed meal.
Yeah.
And also, you've got another nutrient there, an organic one.
Seaweed.
Yeah, three of those, Joe.
3 of those. Now, some lime, yeah? You said get some lime? So I've got some?
Oh, gosh, you got the ordinary can lime.
Well, yeah.
Well, Joe, it's better lime than that.
What's that then?
There it is. That's all the way now. That's come all the way from Penturk near Cardiff. It's dolomite lime.
Okay.
This is absolutely out of this world. Carrots love it. Another 3 scoops in there, Joe.
3 scoops
Yeah,
of that?
yeah.
3 scoops of everything,
Yeah.
innit?
Oh, no, you got. Oh, my
You
God.
told me to get this.
Oh, my God, Joe.
Is that the stuff? That's the stuff, isn't
Joe,
it?
this is the business.
But
That's
this is-
what I've used on my tomatoes for the last 4 or 5 years.
Because we're on the BBC, we can't mention its name, but this is
Joe,
like gold dust.
It gives you that edge. Well,
Right,
Joe,
gives you the I need an edge.
Joe,
That's what I need.
The price of it,
Yeah,
you've said the right word, gold dust.
yeah.
Price of that. It's
I know.
not cheap.
No, it's
but
not
Joe,
cheap, but it works.
anything that's good
Yeah.
Never comes cheap.
No, that's a good point. Now, how many? Don't tell me. 3?
3 or 4, Joe. Yeah. there's no, as long as you don't put 5 or 6 in, you're not going to kill him, Joe.
Well, it's not quite gold dust. It's actually an organic feed based on 70-million-year-old mineral deposits. So there.
A nice bit of surf.
OK, so what's next then, Charlie? How do we get that into there?
Well, you'll have to have a funnel, Joe. You can't put it in with your hands, because then it'll funnel, it'll drop right down, and then you want a round implement to press it down, not
So
too
just
hard.
pack it down a bit.
So there's no air pockets. That's lovely.
Yeah? Well, I've got a seed right here, Charlie. Look, that's the one in it.
Well, I hope you've got the right seed.
Sweet candle.
Oh, my God, you've got the very best.
Yeah.
It's winning everywhere.
Mwah!
3 in the middle. Make certain they're in the middle, Joe.
Yeah.
I know you want to level it off with a nice bit of compass.
Thank you so much for your help. Yeah? But I'm going
Delighted to help you, Joe.
I'm going to be phoning you every day.
Well, phone me when you want to.
I will do.
Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Cheers, Charlie.
All the best.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I didn't expect there'd be this much work. I mean, I just thought, you know, you put a few tubes around and stuff. But, you know, 3 dustbins. I've got how many bags of sand, compost, more sand, topsoil, 3 different types of feeds. And I've got to water them, and I've got to protect them, and I've got to love them. And they will do well.
We'll find out later how Joe's getting on. But let's move away from the vegetable plot. It's time to look at one of Britain's favourite cut flowers. Our next C is for chrysanthemums, which in Greek means golden flower. And here's Alice Fowler with some planting tips.
If you've only got 30 minutes to spare in your garden this weekend, then try sowing something really unusual, like this, which is a chop suey green, or sometimes known as a chrysanthemum green. And it's a very pretty chrysanthemum, but it's grown mainly for its small foliage, which is used traditionally in Japanese and Chinese food, and has an incredibly distinct, very green, slightly bitter taste, which is amazing when you stir fry or in dishes with chicken and ginger. It just brings this really interesting element. And this is probably the last chance to sow it. Now, it's quite a small seed, and really all that needs to happen is for you to sow it on the surface, just press it in, give it a good watering, and up it will come, and you can just, the more you chop it, the more it branches out, just like any chrysanthemum. And then in the spring, you let it bolt and flower, and you get these beautiful, pretty little flowers. And then you can just let it flower and set seeds, collect the seed, and start the whole cycle again.
And there's a wide variety of chrysanthemums you can grow in your garden. Have a look at what this Cheshire firm have on display.
Chrysanthemums originate from Japan, and these varieties you see here have all been bred in the UK.
Nowadays people say it's a Victorian flower, but I do think it's having a resurgence and people are really liking the chrysanthemum again.
If you look at them, they're absolutely stunning when you get them en masse like this. It started in 1958 with my father. I joined the business in 1977. My brother joined then in 1981. We built this about 12 years ago. I mean, this is when the expansion of the nursery really took place. And we went from having about half an acre to now we have 5.5 acres. One of the problems with chrysanthemums is getting clean stock, which in the last 10 years we've managed to get our own clean stock, which is tested every year. We felt the public was getting a bit of a raw deal because the plants they were getting had virus or had disease. So we felt, why can we not take clean stock that we produce and give it to the public? And then they should be able to produce the same quality as we do. And 2009 we launched it.
The sprays are very easy to grow as a cut flower, they really are. Blooms are more specialised, subject to grow.
It takes approximately 5 weeks to get to this stage from planting. And the centre budding, which the girls are doing here, basically it's just a question of taking the centre out like that. And then it just means instead of getting one predominantly big flower at the top, you get a nice spray where they all come level. We have one called Energy that just looks completely different to everything else. It's like green with spiky petals around it. That's very popular. This is the crop of Misty varieties, which are the most popular we grow. This one's Golden Misty. In here we have about 200,000 stems. Roughly 7 days from now we'll start replanting this. After 14 days we'll have completely replanted it with a Christmas crop.
beautiful flowers there, and in case you're wondering, they got the gold medal at the 2009 Tatton Show. Chrysanthemums are quite easy to grow, but make sure you avoid planting them under night lights as it slows down the flowering process. Okay, coming up is one of the most rewarding veg to grow. In fact, just one plant can feed a whole family. C is for courgettes.
And here is veg expert Carol Klein with all you need to know.
These were sown in April, the end of April. Hello, Highbrow. Bit of grub for you there. How are you doing? Have you brought up those youngsters yet? So I'm going to plunge each one of these into a... It's actually a 10-litre pot, this. Now, this is a striped one. I think it's called Striato d'Italia. And I like eating the flowers of these just as much as I like eating the fruit. I've also grown a whole load of yellow ones called Gold Rush, and it produces an abundance of yellow fruits. The reason I'm not planting these straight into the ground is I've run out of space, because this is going to grow into a phenomenally big plant. We've got these nice old Hessian sacks. So the whole thing looks a bit more rustic. All cocoa bits have flat oval seeds. Sowing them on the side discourages rotting and it promotes successful germination. Sow them in April and plant them into their final positions after the last frosts. I've got 8 pots of courgettes because I really do love them, and I'm standing them in between the beans and the peas where it's really sunny. All they need is plenty of water, and because they're in pots, a nitrogenous feed every week. They'll keep producing fruit right through till October.
Our next encounter is with a climber. This C is for clematis, and here's Glenys Dyer of the British Clematis Society.
There are at least 150, probably nearer 200 different varieties of clematis in the garden. You get very attached to them, or they get very attached to you. I'm not quite sure how I should put it, but I do love them. Each one that comes out is different because they're all your old friends, and because we've got so many in the garden, you've got something that comes out every month of the year. But they're all so different. You see the huge ones like dinner plates, but there are medium-sized ones and tiny wee ones, which little bells of about an inch or so long. But the ones which are easiest to grow are the herbaceous ones, and the later flowering ones, which is all the Viticella types, the Texensis types are very reliable, and the later flowering large-flowered hybrids. These along this section are mainly herbaceous. This particular one has a huge flower. It was bred in Russia about 1970, I think, and this one is called Pamiat Serdza, and it's just starting to flower. It will go on and on and on, because the herbaceous ones do. If you want to keep herbaceous clematis short, or indeed any of the clematis short, you can chop them down. We call it the Chelsea chop because you do it round about Chelsea week. Reduce them by a couple of feet, and that way actually get twice as many flowers, and they flower that little bit lower. So you can more or less control the height of your border. I think most of the people who come round are quite surprised at the variety. They see the large flowered ones in the garden centres, and some of them have probably got them in their gardens, but very often they haven't seen the tiny ones, the species, and these are the ones that I love showing them because they need a wider audience. Eric, we need some string over here to tie this one up.
Okay, I'll be round.
It's absolutely hot. My husband Eric is maybe not quite so obsessive about the plants as I am, but he's so cooperative. He builds all these wonderful structures that they can ramble over, and he gives them their heads too. He even puts up ladders and great big supports for them. We've got cones, all sorts of things in the garden. This is an integrifolia that I grew from seed, And it's extremely vigorous. Huge great leaves. They're much bigger than a lot of the integrifolias that you see. But you can grow these so easily yourself from seed. That'll do for now, anyway. Next year, taller support. Some people call them clematis, some people call them clematis. In America they're called clematis, and in France they're called clématite. It doesn't matter what you call them, as long as you grow them.
We're moving on now to one of Britain's native fruits. This seed is for cherries. Kent was the first place where cherries were planted in the 16th century, and it's still leading the way today. Alice Fowler is back, and this time she's searching for the history of cherries in Britain.
Now this is a traditional orchard with traditional wide spacing and huge trees, hence the need for these very, very tall ladders. The ladders have a wonderful feel though. You can sort of tell that hundreds of people have climbed up and down them, and they're stained this sort of brilliant dark cherry red along each rung.
This is Kent farming with a rich history. John Lee Pemberton's family have been growing cherries here for more than 3 generations. And, as with any old orchard, the fruit trees can tell their own stories.
If you have a look around this side here, you can see where it's growing out of the, it's growing out of the lower part of the tree. And what's happened is that the graft is here. That's where the top stock was put onto the tree. This is the rootstock. This is shot out from beneath, and it's showing its true form, which is that it's a wild cherry tree, and it's got these little sour wild fruits on, with tiny stones and tiny pips. And it is from this that the cultivated cherries have developed. And probably, if you look up in here, there you are. I mean, that's a cultivated cherry.
Oh yeah, that's a huge difference in size.
Huge difference from these little tiny things that we've got now.
And the wild cherry is native to Britain, and we've actually always eaten it. It's one of our early foraged foods because there's evidence in Bronze Age sites and stuff like that. But when did we go from eating this to eating this?
The Romans, I think, were probably the first to start grafting cherries and selecting varieties deliberately and propagating them, because, you see, if you grow from seed, you're only ever going to have one tree of a particular variety. The only way you're going to get lots of trees of the same variety is by grafting.
Yeah.
In the UK, the real start of the fruit industry in Kent was with a chap called Richard Harris, who was Henry VIII's fruiterer.
Harris set up an orchard in nearby Tenham and brought graftwood in from France. All on the orders of a king who wanted a sweeter cherry for his dinner table.
Henry VIII really backed it.
He backed it. He backed it. He saw it as as part of his sort of attempt to modernise the country. And I think probably he'd seen the French were doing it better and thought that we've got to do something about it. There's a wonderful description in William Lambard's Perambulation of Kent, which is was one of the first county guides written in 1570 of Richard Harris's orchards. And it says, in the year of our Lord Christ, 1533, he obtained 105 acres of good ground in Tenham, which he divided into 10 parcels, and with great care, good choice, and no small labour and cost, brought plants from beyond the seas, and furnished this ground with them so beautifully, as they not only stand in most right line, but seem to be of one sort, shape, and fashion, as if they'd been drawn through one mould, or wrought by one and the same pattern. And it's just so beautifully written, this, and you can see that for Lambard to walk into this orchard and see trees in a straight row, in a completely new style of growing, must have been really a wonderful thing for him.
You can sort of see why it's called the Garden of England, Kent, because it does just have this such a romantic air, but...
Yeah, it is very lovely and very romantic, but I'm afraid that it's in the past. You know, it is as much in the past as taking your children to school on a horse and cart. It's just, it's very lovely, but it doesn't fit with what the world wants. Yes. The cherries that come out of this orchard, I would not be able to sell in a supermarket.
In West Germany, breeders had created a new dwarf rootstock known as Gisela, and for farmers like John, it was the perfect solution. The trees only grow to around 3 metres or 10 feet tall. They make it much easier to pick.
And I pick like that?
And you pick like that, that's
Not
right.
holding the fruit?
Not holding the fruit, you pick with the strig, that's right.
And the colour?
Colour wants to be, there is a good example. The left-hand cherry is the right colour, the right-hand one is a little bit too dark, and it's also too small anyway, so that's going on the ground too.
The dwarf trees can even be grown under covers to protect them from rainstorms, further guaranteeing the crop for supermarket shelves.
There is a big renaissance going on in UK cherry growing. The acreage is expanding again after years and years of decline. The technology, the techniques are improving. We've got better varieties of cherry, we've got better rootstocks, so we've got smaller trees, we've got tunnels. All sorts of things are working in the industry's favour now.
The key to this whole renaissance really is about having this smaller rootstock, isn't it? That was the moment.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah. Suddenly, our picking costs are halved.
Yes.
Suddenly, we have trees that we can manage and prune easily, that we don't need ladders, we don't need anything like that. I mean, these trees are 8 or 9 years old. They're still only this size, and they'll be smaller once we've pruned them after finishing picking. It's completely revolutionised the business.
Kent broke new ground with the first cherry orchards. But the traditional trees pioneered by Henry VIII have had their day. Cherries are part of a bigger story of Kent. A reflection of the willingness of farmers here to embrace new ideas and make them their own.
In the best of both worlds are farmers like John who are going to keep the old orchards going for as long as possible, but invest in the future of cherries. And the future of cherries are small and covered and perfectly ripe.
And we stay with fruit for the next addition to our list of C's, fruits that the Victorians considered to be symbols of wealth and status. Up next, C is for citrus.
We're visiting a family-run nursery where they're responsible for saving an historic collection of citrus plants.
People don't really think of England as a citrus-growing area, especially Norfolk being flat and wet and windy. We're proud here to have the National Citrus Collection. There's only one like it in the country. We have 60 to 70 varieties of citrus here. They vary from key limes, which you can use in pies and making jams with, or the cafe lime you use in cooking. There are several different lemons. Probably the most unusual one is the Citrus medica, which has extremely large fruits, the size of a small rugby ball. Grapefruits also. And you've got lots of oranges. There's sweet oranges for eating, and also blood oranges, which have a very distinctive flavour. Most of these are here thanks to the collection being set up by my father, Terry, some 20-odd years ago.
I bought the collection in 1983, but it was Thomas Rivers, the famous nurseryman from Sawbridgeworth, who inspired citrus growing and the collection. Thomas Rivers was a very inquiring sort of man. He corresponded with people like Charles Darwin, and he'd been collecting, breeding, and producing new varieties of fruits, resuscitating old varieties, collecting them from all over Europe. When Rivers Nursery closed down, we decided to take over the citrus collection. There were lots of varieties which, if I didn't rescue them, no one was going to, and they were just going to be lost. I didn't really know what I'd taken on. We'd never grown citrus before, and we'd got no heated greenhouses. We were on our own sort of thing, because there was no one else in the country growing citrus at all, except for a few of the grand houses. And my son Stephen now looks after the National Collection.
The collection is looked at every day. You examine it, you look for signs of any pest that might have flown in overnight, for example. They're watered every other day. They're fed every week with a liquid feed. We also spray with seaweed once a week, which thickens the leaves up. It also adds a few vital nutrients into the leaves as well. It reinforces them against disease and makes it harder for pests to attack. All our plants here are grown in a peat-free compost, but for citrus it's more important that they have a free-draining compost. They don't like wet feet. If you want to start growing citrus, there are plenty of choices to go with. Lemons, which give you lots of blossom, lots of fruit all year round. Or you can have lime trees for the gin and tonic. We put them in pickles. Some of the pickles can be very hot. If you're not careful, they can blow the back of your throat off. Most gardens can have citrus in them somewhere, whether you've got a conservatory, greenhouse or a sheltered spot. You can grow them on a windowsill if you choose the right variety. They're not difficult to grow. Feed them, water them, and they'll reward you with lots of scented blossom and tasty fruit.
And after that, here's some planting tips with Monty Don.
Just come on and dry. Gently lower this down so I don't break the pot. Even a citrus plant that's ailing a little bit is still a wonderful thing. I think that combination of the brilliant green leaves, the fruit, either bright orange or bright lemon, a terracotta pot and preferably a blue sky is as lovely as anything. Now, This has lived all winter indoors. It needs winter protection because it's not really frost hardy. But when you keep it indoors, it always tends to get a bit tired. And then when you put it outside in spring, the whole plant perks up. You get lovely new green growth, you get the flowers coming out that smell fantastic, the fruit forming, and you can have flowers and fruit at the same time. The whole thing is a joy. So to get a full measure of joy from this plant, I want to give it a boost. And about every 5 years, it's a good idea to repot them. And that's what I'm going to do now. Right, gums. Now, I don't quite know what to expect because, well, it's not too bad. So if you look at that, the roots are growing around the edge of the pot. They've run out of space. Let's put that down for a minute, it's heavy. Best time of year to do this is early June. So your normal topping up and light pruning you want to do about March, April. But leave this until growth is really getting going and just tease off the old compost without damaging the roots. Now, I've mixed up a compost mix for it. It's a combination of a proprietary organic peat-free potting compost, a good bucket of grit, and a generous bucket of sieved, well-made home garden compost. And that combination gives it the right amount of nutrients. They need sustenance, but they also need drainage. And that's what the grit's for. And they must have good, quite quick drainage. When you water them, you want to see the water coming out the bottom of the pot. Okay, let's put a layer underneath the plant. Go. Now, this is where I know whether I've got to trim the roots or not. Yeah, I think I am. Just going to trim those back. I don't want them touching the side of the pot, so all I'm going to do is just snip them off a little bit. I have not done this for 6 years, and that's probably enough. If you did this every year to your citrus, they would not be happy. So, if in doubt, don't prune the roots. And the main reason I'm pruning them is to fit them into this pot. And I must stress that root pruning is not something you do every year. Just do it about every 5 years, and then every year you just need to add a mulch of the compost and then pinch out the growing tip so you keep the shape. But this has lost its shape a bit. So I'm going to prune slightly more radically because I've taken roots off, and now I'm going to take a bit of the top off. That's a gunner. Here. There. That's looking much better. Next stage will be to give it a good soak, a bit of a feed, top up with mulch, and find the right spot for it. Now, it's reminded me, I've got in my pocket here a letter from June Lucas. So if you're watching June, he says, I have a couple of citrus trees which I think are grapefruit, which I grew from pips about 10 years ago, and they're very green and healthy. The trouble is they've never flowered, and I'm wondering why. That's an easy one. They're 10 years old. Grapefruit grown from seed don't flower for about 20 years. You're halfway there, June. Hang on.
Thanks, Monty. Now, remember Joe Swift and his friend Charlie? They're trying to grow carrots to compete at the RHS show, and harvest day has arrived.
Charlie.
Hello, Joe.
How you doing?
Nice to meet you again. We're on the lucky dip today. See what's about.
Come in. Right. Come in, I'll show you my veg.
Very good.
I'm just not sure if they're thick enough. If there's, I don't know what's going on underneath. There's a lot of greenery.
Get the water, Joe.
Okay, I'll get the water.
Come on.
Oh, look at that. Beautiful top on it.
Well, it is. Hang on a minute.
God. What's that? Is that good? Say something.
Hey, God, I left Joe. It looks like a long carrot, not a stump.
Oh, no,
It's not a stump, is it?
Oh, no, you ideally want them to be nice and stumpy
Joe,
all the way down.
About down to there, and then coming in very, very abruptly like that, Joe. But this is good.
Oh, let's have a look.
Look how clean it is, man.
That's a stumpy. That's a sweet candle.
Don't drop it, Joe.
I'm not going to drop it.
This is special.
All right. So I need two
Now then,
more.
let's be very careful. Look at the difference, Joe. That's
It's
a
a
big one.
stumpy.
Oh, my God, now then. Keep your fingers
I
crossed.
need two more like that.
Oh,
come on then.
I'm praying you get him. Look out, Joe. He's massive. You're going to Westminster with a dish of stumpies. Right, away we go.
Right, we're going to put number one in, yeah?
You've got to put that for the start.
Number one's in. Okay, let's
put
move
that
him
one
over
in
there.
now. We'll move this one because he got a stump.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a
There
beauty.
you are, Joe.
Yeah.
Now, although it's not as good as that carrot,
Bit of a skinny one.
you've got the uniformity. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Same length now.
What about him then? What about him?
You've got a good eye there, Joe. Hang on. You can move them a little bit like that, like the runner beans. Oh, Joe, I think this is it.
He's quite nice.
Joe, when you're staging, Yeah. That one goes in the middle.
Nice.
See
Like
what I mean?
it. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Joe, I've done it for years.
Clever.
Look, Joe. Now that is not going to disgrace you for first time.
That's all we're looking for. Well, here we go.
Yep. This is it, Joe.
After you, Charlie.
Okay, right.
It's a bit scary, this, Charlie.
It is a bit scary.
There you go, that's me. That's
Right.
me.
There you are,
Definitely
Joe.
me. I'm definitely
Yeah.
in. Let's do
Away
the
you
carrots
go.
then.
To the carrots around here.
Carrots, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall I put them straight out? Do you want a plate?
I would get a plate.
Shall I get a
now,
plate?
what about a plate?
Yeah, what?
Do you want me to get it for you?
I don't think there's one big enough.
Joe?
Oh, look, they look so skinny compared to everybody else.
Oh, well, you've got your three best ones. Now that gentleman there, like he's even got a hole in there. See, he hasn't got perfection. It's hard to get it. Now yours are clean, see, Joe. That's not going to disgrace you at the first
They're a
time.
nice
You
colour.
Well, they're very. Look at the colour. It's nice
They're
colour.
a nice colour. We'll get the
Yeah.
biggie on. We'll get the biggie on.
Go on then. Put that one on there now.
I'm going to go for these two. I'm going
Have you
for
got the right two?
Well, I think.
Have you got the right two to go with that one?
Okay, right. So I'm
There
not
we
sure.
go.
What do you think about that one? You
I
see?
don't like that. No, I love that one. Here we are. Now
So you
then.
don't like that dodgy end on that one?
I
then?
don't like that one.
It's got the bulk, a bit more bulk though.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No?
Put it away.
All right, put that one.
I think you've got to go for those.
Yeah.
If you can't have everything on the first go, you've got the colour.
I got the colour. They're orange. They're
You've
orange.
got the finesse.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more weight needed.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet candle, yeah.
There we are. That's it.
Right.
This is a reminder to all fruit and vegetable competitors that judging will start at 9:30. Please will all competitors leave the hall while judging takes place.
That's it. There's no more I can do. I've done my best. The results and destiny of my veg is in the lap of the gods, the judges. While they make their decisions and drool over my efforts, all I can do is wait nervously outside with Charlie. After 2 very long hours, it's time to see if I've won a card.
Well,
Oh, there.
it doesn't surprise me.
No, you look how many entries here.
I mean, there's a lot of entries and the standard's really high. Didn't get anything.
It's 14.
8 months of work.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know,
What about there?
that's the first prize.
Oh my God, Joe, you got a little bit of catching up to do.
I know. I feel mildly inadequate when next to that one.
Same length, Joe.
That's got the weight, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
It's your first try on showing exhibition vegetables.
Yeah.
And it's a different aspect altogether than growing to eat on your allotment.
I know. Listen. It's been an amazing year. I've learned so much about growing veg, about about the presentation, about the dedication all these guys have, about how you've dedicated your whole life to it.
My whole life to it. I went so much, Joe, but I enjoy now helping new gardeners to succeed like I've succeeded.
Well, you've helped me tons, and we're friends now, Charlie.
For life.
For life.
Yeah.
And we've had some fun along the way.
Of course we have. Yeah.
Of course we have.
Thank you.
What a journey! Shame about not getting a prize, but I'm sure the carrots were delicious. And that's it for today. We've packed in a lot, haven't we? Chilies, clematis, citrus, cherries and chrysanthemums. I'm off for a rest. But make sure you join me next time for more top tips on the A to Z of TV gardening. Goodbye.